I guess, sir, we can start. It's 4:30. Let's stop sharing.
Yes, I think. Good evening, everybody. Jai Hind to all the members of the DPS family. We have a brilliant educator going to be addressing us today, Radhakrishnan from Kuwait. To give you a little more details about Radhakrishnan, I will invite my coordinator, Munmun Sen Gupta, to do the honors. Munmun, you may begin.
Jai Hind, everyone.
Munmun, you may begin.
You're not audible, Munna.
While your mic is on, we are not able to hear you. Well, while we get Munmun to in technical order, I thought, design thinking is something that is the latest that is being talked about. Not latest perhaps in the educational circles, but yes, in the processes that govern the consumer industry, design thinking has always been there. Let's see how we bring that from the process from the consumer industry into education. And I think none other than Radhakrishnan, who's a thought leader, I thought. A colleague of mine, known him for the last 3-4 years. We've been on several platforms together. And I think his pet project, the Panchatantra Planet, has done very well. I think Mukti and a few of us have done work for him in terms of webinars. So Radhakrishnan, we are eagerly waiting to listen to you. Yes, Munmun, you may go ahead with it. Some technical snag. Okay, well, I think we might do a very brief introduction. Radhakrishnan presently is the senior principal at the Indian School in Kuwait, has led several organizations in the past, has been a teacher, a thought leader, a writer, a prolific kind of a writer. Sailing into a Happy Life is a column that I very eagerly read on his social media platform. Very, very active on Twitter. And as I just said a few minutes ago, he created this beautiful online platform, virtual platform called the Panchatantra Planet, which deals with a lot of India-centric education. And a lot of work has been done. Honorary webinars have been held by several people. So a seasoned educator, we are glad to have you, Radhakrishnan. I think I won't stand between you and the audience. And over to you to tell us how to bring in the process of design thinking into our classrooms. Yeah. Over to you, Radha.
Okay. Thank you, Mukeshji. First of all, let me start with gratitude, because being educators, the first important thing we should have is gratitude. So let me express my gratitude to Mukeshji and also the DPS management for giving me an opportunity to address you all. I know how well DPS do the things, because whenever I open any educational platform, I can see something good about DPS, some good work, projects, and everything. And whenever we discuss with the Mukeshji also, he also used to tell a lot about the good innovative works DPS used to do. So I am very happy to be part of it. I'm not spending much of the time for introduction and all, because we have only very little time. That means we have only 1 hour. I think around 50 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes got over, I think. And this is the one thing, glitches. Everywhere, every moment we face certain glitches. Now today you can see the person we interested for welcome address, some glitches. So problems are there every moment. So how we make the children, make our young learners solve these problems, that is very important. As Mugeshji was telling in the beginning, in the consumer industry or in the industry, in the corporate sector, design thinking is used on a large scale. And when in the consumer industry, we are using it on a large scale, who uses it in the consumer industry or in the corporate sector? The human resource engaged in the corporate sector, they only use. And this human resource is produced by whom? This human resource is produced by schools. So if we continue with a traditional mode of teaching, that means the teacher-centered mode of teaching, if we continue, how are we going to produce future professionals suitable for this modern corporate sector? That is a big question. And thinking about that only, CBSE has also taken the initiative and decided to introduce a new subject. And it is included as a skill subject. And recently, I think in the last week of April 2022, CBSE has come forward with a circular also regarding that 6th to 8th children can opt for design thinking. It's a wonderful initiative from CBSE. And I won't be talking about that. I just wanted to touch that circular, that's all. I won't be talking about it because that is only for 6th to 8th, for a particular section of teachers only will be teaching it, because you all won't be engaged in that. So I will be dealing mainly with how design thinking can be integrated with different subjects or in our day-to-day classroom activities, and also to solve, to ponder our different problems that we face in a school. In the whole school scenario, we have different problems. How we can rectify or we can find solutions for these problems by involving the kids. This is one of another important aspect. It is not only by the teachers and the principals and management to solve the problems of the schools. Problems of the schools should be solved with the involvement of the children. Here comes the importance of design thinking. With these few lines, let me go to my presentation. We will go with the presentation because we have a limited time. So if I start talking about it, it will go on. So I have prepared a small presentation. Based on that, I will keep talking. So let me go to the presentation. Are you able to see my screen?
No, sir.
Are you able to
Yes,
see?
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just joining.
Yes, sir.
You are able to see, right? Are you able to see the presentation, PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Is the slides moving?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Thank you. So, let me tell you what we are going to focus today. We will be talking about what is this design thinking in brief, then why it is relevant, what is the relevance, Then how this can be implemented? That means what are the stages involving in design thinking, pedagogy? Then how to implement it in the classroom and also in whole school. And finally, we will have the question and answer. So this is for self-reading. These are some of the quotes from some important personalities on design thinking. So you can read yourself. Yeah, fine. We are moving. Yeah, now let me ask you one question. You can use your chat box to respond to this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself about the knowledge of design pedagogy? You can use your chat box. Yeah, I could see some of the responses. Good. Okay, I'm not spending much time on it. Okay, good. Thanks for the response. Now, let us see what is DTP or design thinking pedagogy. Design thinking pedagogy is an approach, or we can call it as a process, or it is a active learning process, and also it's a versatile one. Then as an approach, why we call it as an approach? Design thinking is an approach. Why we call it as an approach? Because in this, what happens is learning takes place through collaboration and through problem solving. So all the children involved when we implement design thinking in the classroom. So a collaborative environment is created. For what this collaborative environment is created? To solve a particular problem. And traditionally what happens in our teaching style, we just focus on the content and the teacher go on explaining. And hardly children get an opportunity to collaborate or think over. That means to an extent, the traditional approach is a rigid one. But here, in this, you can see that it is a very flexible approach. Children discuss and debate. They pull the data. They analyze it. And they reach to some conclusions. That means there is no judgment. Without any judgment, prior judgment, children work on certain data, they discuss and debate, they analyze it, and finally they reach to a conclusion. So everywhere you can see collaboration and cooperative learning. So we generally believe that it's a wonderful approach on reflective learning. And it's a part of reflective learning also. When they debate and discuss that all, each and every participant is reflecting on the problem. And even in the NEP, you can see we have to focus on reflective learning. So remember, this design thinking is an approach which allows us to involve the children in discussions and debates. And also they can think over, analyze, and they can reach to their own conclusions. So you can see everywhere, children reflects on whatever data they collected. They also reflect on whatever other children present. They give their views. So everywhere you can see flexibility. So what happens in this approach? It affirms empathy, curiosity, constructiveness, and continuous iteration. And remember remember here, if you connect it with the Bloom's taxonomy, you can see that it's a higher order thinking approach. From lower order, we will be able to take to higher order. That is the benefit of design thinking as an approach. Then it's a process. Why it is considered as a process? It's a process by which we find solutions to problems. The process in the sense, children collect the data, children ask different questions, they try to find the data, answer, and after that they analyze. That means there are different stages are involved. So they go through different processes to reach to a conclusion. And in all these processes, teachers are mere facilitators. They just guide the children. Children themselves have to find the reasons for the problem and how to rectify it, and they have to present or they have to create a new idea to solve that particular issue or particular problem in hand. So there are a lot of process involved. So it is a process. And again, you can see it is very active. Why it is called very active? Because children involved in each and every stage, or our learners involved in each and every stage, so that we call it very active. Rather than teacher-centered, in teacher-centered classrooms, what happens? Children are passive. And when you allow the children to ask questions, discuss on the problem, and find solutions themselves, each and every child in the class becomes very active in learning. That means they are actively involved in learning. That is another benefit and also another advantage of this particular design thinking. So when our classes becomes monotonous, children becomes passive. When classes becomes teacher-centered. But through implementing design thinking, we can make our classes student-centered. We can give them more opportunity to discuss and debate and think over different issues. And when we allow them to think over different issues time and again, it becomes a habit. We have to underline that particular. It becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, how it helps learning? It helps learning because later whatever they learn, whatever they hear, they start asking questions to it. And they try to find answers. This is the actual method of learning. And we used to tell, what we have to teach in the school is not to memorize things rather than how to learn. That's what we have to teach. And design thinking help us to teach the children how to learn. Because here, children question whatever they see, whatever problems they have, they question that problem to find the reasons. And again, whatever points they get, again they question those points they get. That means it's a type of inquiry-based learning takes place. So they understand very clearly, or a habit of self-learning gets set through design thinking. So that we call it very active. And also interdisciplinary approach. It is versatile, especially because it has got an interdisciplinary approach through two. Why it has got an interdisciplinary approach? Because when they pull data, they may be collecting data from different sources connected to different subjects. And to analyze this data, they have to use the techniques they learned in different subjects. Sometimes they have to use maths. Sometimes they have to use chemistry. Sometimes they have to use history. Sometimes to understand the data they collected and analyze it, they have to use geographical factors or something related to science. And while to present it and to analyze the data, they have to use technology sometimes. So it gives us various opportunities to have interdisciplinary learning. That is another important aspect, and it makes versatile. And it becomes versatile as another important point is it involves each and every child in the class, depending on their ability, pace, and their intelligence. Here, everywhere you can see that in the process, what happens is multiple intelligence is also used at different places. So each children endowed with the different skills can get into the process of design thinking. So I think to an extent you got an idea what is design thinking. It's an approach, it's a process, it is active, versatile. In short, what I explained is, in short, I can tell you, it's an approach mainly because it allows us to involve the children in the class to solve problems. Then second, it involves different stages. It goes through different stages to reach to a conclusion. Second, third, children becomes very active participants in learning. It gives us various opportunities for interdisciplinary learning. And this is the need of the hour, especially because in the corporate industries or in the corporate sector, design thinking is widely used. And the coming age also, professionals should be using this on a large scale to solve the issues. So it is very essential for us to make our children habituated with the design thinking. And finally, it helps the learners understand how to learn rather than mugging up, how to learn, how to study different issues and find solutions. We are moving. Then, what are the 4 critical skills needed for people to succeed in the 21st century? And I hope I am not spending time on that because we have very little time. So that, and most of you know that for skills, that is critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. And you can see that when we have seen the last slide, you have seen that lot of critical thinking aspect is involved in design thinking. Lot of collaboration also, lot of communication also takes place. And finally, they create an idea. That means creativity also. And these are the 4 skills needed by the children. And while applying or by applying design thinking, it is very easy for you to train your children in these 4 competencies or 4 skills. Then, why it is relevant? You can see learners moving through a design cycle exhibit a higher order thinking skill than those in more traditional learning activities. That is another important aspect you have to remember. As I told in the beginning itself, in traditional learning, what happens is it is teacher-centered. And most of the time, children are engaged in the lower level of Bloom's taxonomy. We are not able to take them to higher order of Bloom's taxonomy. But when you apply design thinking, right from the beginning, you can see step by step, they are moving to the higher order thinking. Because in the first stage, when they collect the data, to an extent, you can see that at the knowledge level. Then they try to study those data. It goes to understanding. Then they start applying. Then they start analyzing, evaluating. Then finally, they reach to a conclusion, that is creating. So it is very relevant. And in the industrial sector, same thing they have to do in future. That means if they have a problem, they have to study, they have to pull the data, they have to study it, they have to analyze, and they have to find solutions. That means they should know how to solve problems, because the world is looking for problems solvers, not the problem creators. The world is looking for problem solvers. And design thinking pedagogy, if we use, we will be training them on a day-to-day basis how to find solutions. That is the relevance of DTP or design thinking pedagogy. Then, you know PDCA cycle, you might have been heard about PDCA cycle. And what are those stages? You can see act, plan, check, and do. And all these things they apply. And in corporate sector also, this PDCA cycle is used on a day-to-day basis. They act upon problems, they plan, they identify, then they check, and finally they act upon it or implement it. You can see first they act, once they get a problem, they act upon it rather than hiding it. They study that problem. Then they plan how to solve it. They make strategies. Then they evolve certain plans. Then those plans they check and implement. They test it, how the plant one works. They check it. And after that, they go through the cycle time and again. So in DTP also, in design-based thinking also, or design-based strategy also, we do the same thing in the class. Because we will be dividing children into different groups. So each group will be coming up with their own problems. They will be studying it. They will be coming up with solutions. And these solutions, they discuss and debate the solutions also, and they try to implement it, or they try to create something. Again, they go through the PDCA cycle to improve it, because they will be asking questions again to the solution also. And when they ask questions to the solution, what they found after its execution, they will again find some problems to, or some of the stages by which they can improve upon what they created. Like that, it goes through PDCA cycle time and again. That you will get to know better about this PDCA cycle in design thinking in the coming slides. So I just wanted to touch upon this PDCA cycle just to give you an introduction to that. That's all. Then stages how design thinking pedagogy is implemented. What are the stages involved in design thinking? You can see it goes through 5 stages. You can see over here, first we empathize. We empathize means we empathize with the problem. Generally, what happens when we have a problem, we immediately judge and we say that, oh, because of this happens. So it is very difficult to solve. That's what we used to tell. Suppose children are coming without having breakfast to school, because many of the schools face this problem. Children come to the school without breakfast, without having breakfast. And when that problem is there, without addressing that problem, empathizing with that problem, we will start judging about the course. And we will tell that, okay, parents are so busy, they are not taking care. Or parents are not preparing the breakfast at the right time, so that it is happening. And we never try to study and find the real reason. But when we apply design thinking over there, we try to go deep into the problem and we try to understand the problem. That means we try to empathize rather than judging on that particular issue. Then we try to define that problem. That means when you empathize with this problem of children coming without breakfast, when we empathize that problem, we ask various questions and we try to find why this is happening. Sometimes we prepare a questionnaire and we circulate it. And when you use it in the classroom, what happens is you make the children to prepare a set of questions. And children prepare a set of questions to ask to their classmates why they are coming without breakfast. So 5 to 6 questions children prepare. And they ask and they give these questions to others. Then children get lot of data from others on the problem. That means they are empathizing on the problem and they are collecting the data. After collecting the data, they analyze it. Okay, what is the real reason? Because they got different answers from different kids. they analyze it. And you may ask, what is the role of the teacher then? The role of the teacher then is helping the children to frame right kind of questions and helping the children or guiding the children how to analyze it and how to make observations based on the analysis. That is the role of the teacher. Then when they analyze, synthesize, and create their own observations, that means they are defining the problem. That means what is the problem? What is in it? Children, or why children are not coming without breakfast? What is in it? So what is the real issue that they will define? Then after defining it, they will try to find a solution for that. They produce ideas addressing a problem, judgment-free environment. That means without any judgment. That means it is because of the parents or it is because of the school timing. Rather than judging based on those things, they study whatever data they pulled, whatever they analyzed, whatever observations they collected. And based on that, they ideate how we can solve this issue. They ideate certain strategies, what the parents can do, what the school can do. They plan something. And here, while ideating also, teachers can play an important role by guiding the children how to come to a solution for the problem. And once they ideate, they may say that, okay, whatever breakfast parents are preparing in the morning, those breakfasts are not suitable for the children, or that is not suitable for the kids, or that doesn't interest the child, so that they are not having, or it is not prepared at the right time. So they may come up with some solutions. Okay, these are the menus good for the children in the morning that can interest the kid also. So like that, some solutions they will find and they will give. Then what happens? They prototype it. They create a format by which that can be given to different stakeholders. That means solutions that can be given to stakeholders. Not only to the parents, the school also might have to do something. So they create a solution and they make a prototype for the solution. And that solution, that model they create, they give to a few sections in the school, not for all in the beginning. In prototype, what they test it with a few. That means a pilot project they implement. They select 1 or 2 classes. That means sometimes 30 to 40 kids they select, and they give to those classes. They communicate their solution to these few kids or few parents, few teachers of those classes. And once they implement whatever solutions they created by ideating, they will again study the data they collect after implementing that. That means they again empathize, define, and ideate whatever the data they pulled in the pilot project. Then again they will improvise the solution they created. They will improvise the solution they created and they will execute it. And even after executing, this cycle, this PDCA cycle will go on. Here a prototype is made, a prototype is implemented. They studied the prototype. Then again, they brought into a solution. That final solution they implement. And that final solution, when we call it final solution, that final solution never becomes final. They again take it to the first cycle. Whatever problems while implementing comes, they again take those problems to the first stage. And to the second stage, to the third stage. Like that, they keep on improvising. That is the benefit of design thinking. This is the method by which design thinking is implemented in the whole school also. So I think to an extent you understood how design thinking pedagogy should be implemented to solve the problems. So here you can see that in the first stage of empathizing and defining, they try to understand the problem because they collect the data, they try to define it. Here they try to understand. And here they explore, they ideate and prototype. They explore into the data and they find some solutions. And these solutions are materialized, implemented in the last stage, that is testing stage. Then again, they come back and do it time and again. That's what they do in design thinking. And if you want to learn more about it, I'm giving here certain links. And after my presentation, I will be sharing with Mukesh ji the PDF of this whole presentation. In that, there are a lot of links I am giving, because this is actually for 1 day workshop. So when I am conducting, carrying out it in 50 minutes, I can only just introduce these slides. So a lot of links are there. You can go through once you get the PowerPoint, once you get the PDF of the presentation, and you can learn more about it. Then, can you connect the principles of NDP 2020 with this design thinking pedagogy? List a few keywords of connection. I am not spending here time to interact with you because the time is very short. But you can see a lot of connections with the NEP. As I told, it is interdisciplinary and also inquiry-based learning. These are the things in the NEP you can see. And also reflective learning you can see in NEP. And all these, when you implement design thinking, you can very easily take the children to multidisciplinary learning, reflective learning. Everything comes over here. That means this is very closely interlinked with the National Education Policy of 2020. Many connections you can see. Then, design thinking implementation in classroom and whole school. To an extent, I have explained it. Still, once again, we can go through it, how the things work. You suppose you have a problem. In the classroom or in the whole school, you have a problem. You choose that problem. What is that problem? And rather than hiding it, give that problem to the children. And you start with discussing with the children few questions. That means 2 or 3 questions to open up, to solve the starting trouble. You put up 2 or 3 questions about the problem. And after that, whatever we do in project-based learning and all, in the same pattern, you divide the class into few groups. Suppose in your class there are 20 kids, means you make groups of 5 children. That means you get 4 groups. And each of these groups, you tell them to think about the problem, in hand, and create more questions about that particular problem. It can be a topic from the lesson. It can be a topic from the lesson, or it can be something related to contextualization of your content, or some of the issues happening in and around the school or inside the school, whatever it is. And give that problem to each group. Let each group come up with a lot of questions on it. And once they come up with the questions, first let that group itself find some answers for that, why this problem is creating. Now, suppose in your area, pollution, now everywhere pollution is a problem. Suppose you take, for example, pollution. You take that environmental pollution as a problem, or water shortage. Another important thing is water shortage, that also everywhere it is there. So your topic is water shortage or pollution, whatever it is. You give it to all the 4 groups. Let each group discuss about it and create certain questions. And this question, creating some questions means they are empathizing with the problem. For example, suppose someone comes to you with some problems. Suppose a beggar comes to your home. Then generally what we do, if we are planning to give something to that person, or someone asks you some help, you generally ask him or her some questions, right? That means you are empathizing. Why are you asking those questions to person who came to you for a help? Why are you asking questions? Because you wanted to know about the problem, so that you are empathizing with the person, so that you are asking questions. So when you ask questions, that person gives you the answer. And from that answer, you generally define the problem of that particular person. Then you analyze it. Then you feel, okay, how much I can give to help this person. Right? That means you ideate, okay, I can give this much money, 1,000 rupees I can give, and let him solve that issue. And you give the money. So in the same way, when you empathize, this is what happens. You try to understand. So suppose pollution is the issue or the problem you have given to the groups. Let them ask questions of that kind. Why the pollution is happening in that region? Whether it is due to agriculture, whether it is due to industries, whether it is due to vehicles. So like that, they can create a lot of questions. And they themselves can debate and find some answers. And once each group created certain questions and also found certain answers, let the children first exchange the questions. Rather than exchanging the answers, let the groups keep the answers with them itself, and let them exchange the questions each group created. Then each group discuss about the questions they created, each other. Then finally what happens is, about the problem of pollution, each group might have been created 5 questions, and maybe few questions are repeated, but at least these children will prepare 10 questions. And when they prepare 10 questions, what you have to understand is, the children learn how to prepare questions, or how to arrive into good questions, how to ask questions to an issue. And each of the group find answers also for all these questions. Each of the group find answers also for each of these questions. Then what happens? Each of these questions, every group find answers. So they have a huge data now. That data they analyze. That means they understand that problem very well. You just think I am just talking about this empathize and define. In that they are creating a lot of questions, and they are all discussing it and finding answers. 20 kids are there in your class. So 4 groups are discussing and debating on that, and they are pulling the answers. Now you go to your textbook. Suppose this pollution topic is there in your textbook. You go to the textbook, you can see that there may be only 1 or 2 paragraphs about that, or 2 or 3 paragraphs on that. And when you compare the content of your textbook and what the children generated, you can see that children might have been generated much more than what is mentioned in the textbook. This is the advantage of design thinking. You make the children learn themselves. They become self-learners. Not only self-learners, you make them reflective learners. And if you have time, what you can do is, if you have time in the class, they ask questions and find answers and all. Let each of them discuss on those answers. Because here what we are trying to understand the problem, define and understand the problem. That is what we are doing in the first stage. So let them reflect on the answers given by each group. So again, there is a lot of discussion, debate and all happens. Then they move to ideate. Okay, how can we suggest some solutions? Now you may ask me, what is the use of suggesting some solutions by the children for a local pollution issue? Here is another important aspect you have to think of. Now, I told you interdisciplinary it is. Let them create a solution after brainstorming, discussion and debate. Let them ideate a solution. Then after ideating a solution, they can even write a letter to the municipal authority or panchayat authority, telling that we have studied the issues of pollution in our area, and these are our conclusions, and these are our suggestions that can be implemented. So you can see how they involve, and all these empathizing, defining it. I am not telling that it should be restricted within. They can conduct surveys, they can conduct interviews, going out. Everything is possible. But if it is a city environment, if you are not able to do that, they can go and survey. If it is not possible, what the teachers have to do, you have to bring in certain videos. You bring in certain videos and show the children the videos about the water shortage. If the issue is on water shortage, you show the children certain videos. If it is pollution, show them certain videos. Let them watch the video, and from that, let them discuss about that video clip. Then after that, let them write down the questions, whatever they want about the problem, and let them suggest. And these suggestions they can take up to suggestions, and the solutions they found, they can write a letter to the panchayat authorities. And even you can extend it further. You can extend it in design thinking. How? You can call the panchayat president or the municipal chairman, if possible, or a member of the standing committee to the school. And you can have a small function and let the children, and you can even invite the parents and give opportunity to the children to present it in front of the audience. Whatever solutions they ideated, they created, let them present it to the people. Then hand over the report to the panchayat president. Sometimes, if your school is so lucky, sometimes the panchayat authorities may take 1 or 2 suggestions from that. Then that's a great credit for you and the credit for the children also. And if it is school-based, once the children prepare, if the problem you are discussing is school-based, generally what you can do is, that can be implemented in the school. And after implementing, let the children study it again. Then we saw that I have put up here an arrow. You can see that. You can see that here. This arrow you can see. They study it, they implement it, they again find problems. While implementing, they again find problems. Those problems, they again take it to empathize. To the same group they discuss. They define those problems, they ideate. So in the PDCA cycle, time and again it goes on. And they improvise the solutions they created on anything. So this is what is about this design thinking pedagogy in the classroom or in the whole school environment. So how the teacher facilitates it, that is very important. How you give the problems or how you allow the children to find problems, and how you guide the children to empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and implement it. And I can tell you very clearly, we should give opportunity. You should take some school-based projects or issues. Then you can see how it can be implemented, how again children can distribute the survey forms, etc. And they can go back and empathize and define, and they can keep on improvising. And one of the best issue you can take up with the children is this breakfast issue many of the children face, and indiscipline issues also you can take up. Even addiction, substance addiction is another important problem many schools face. Even that you can take, then children can find solution. Involve the children in all these activities and implement the design thinking strategy for all that. And for that, first teachers should understand how to do it. And in the new subject, what the CBSE is implementing, that is design thinking pedagogy, they are teaching it, what I can say, area, they are teaching it step by step. It's a long process, 3 years course they are offering. I'm just telling you some brief in a nutshell how it can be implemented in a small form. In the next slide, I am going to show you a small video. That video will talk to you about how it is implemented in a classroom. How a teacher conducts design thinking by using a video in the classroom. That we are going to that particular slide. And you can see after implementing it, feedback they collect, and after the feedback, they again go through this. They can go through time and again, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. There is no issue. They can keep on improvising their result. I will show you that video. You can watch for 5 minutes.
see what happens. Oh, look at the
Are you able to hear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
You are able-
Yes, sir. It is on.
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Yeah.
water.
Because they've been exposed to design thinking at such an early age, that creativity has just blossomed. They can really think outside the box, and they really feel that there is not a problem out there that they cannot devise a solution for.
Do you want to drink that? No. See what you can do to redesign it.
At Design Learning Campus, we want our students to be working on real-world work in real-world ways. Design thinking is an innovative approach to problem solving. It's a step-by-step process, designing for a specific purpose or person. Because it's World Water Day, today's design challenge is creating a water filtration system using natural resources.
In design thinking, the first thing you have to do
नहीं
is
लगी 2 पेटी में तो पूरा लग ही जाएगा इसमें.
that.
तो ये वाली जो होगी इसको बाहर लगवा दीजिए.
Person. Okay, listen up. This morning we
और
watched
बाहर लगवा दिएगा लगे हाथ.
how other people get water. It was about a girl that had to walk 4 miles to get water and 4 miles to get back, and her back was aching because of that heavy bucket of water on her head.
हाँ जी.
We just have to get a glass of water from the fridge.
After we showed them the video, we just shared some facts with them. Worldwide, here's how many people don't have access to clean water. In the video, what did you notice around her? Some of the natural resources around her.
Like the sticks and plants.
So could she use these items?
Yes.
So for the research part, we needed the kids to experience these natural resources. What happens when you pour water through sand? What happens when you pour water through cloth?
Did you get all of the dirt?
After research, we'll define the problem. A lot of times they need to come up with the definition. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? With this one, we had a problem already defined.
So our problem is people who do not have access to clean water need a way to filter water so they don't get sick from it. What's next?
Brainstorm different ideas.
When students are ideating, we talk about rapid ideating. We don't want them to waste too much time kind of working through one idea or adding a lot of details. It's just, what if I made it this way? What if I changed it that way?
Oh, so you're saying to like layer some of those materials?
Then they go ahead and prototype.
This is not your final building. It's like your model. So when it comes to your real one, you know what you're going to build.
Walking around to the tables, you hear students starting to combine different ideas.
Drawing it first shows how you're going to build it. Now we will connect the pipe right here. And then it has to turn.
So now they have their paper model, it's labeled, so they can go and get the supplies needed and start building it.
We need a clock.
The prototyping, when they're building it, can be sometimes the quickest part. They have it all planned out. They know what they're building. After students prototype, they're excited to jump in and see, how did my prototype work?
What number would you say this is for turbidity?
We brought out a turbidity scale, which they would be looking for the clarity of the water, and then a ppm device, which would measure the purity of it.
So even though water might be clear, it still might not be safe to drink.
What do you see, Brandon? What number? 985.
If it fails, you have to see the problems and make it again.
The final stage in the design process is we'll have them upload into their digital portfolio. Sometimes it's about publishing results that didn't quite work so that others can learn from it.
Publishing could just be sharing out to an audience. What would they change? Or what was challenging about the project? How did the group work together?
And you guys took both ideas and made it into one. And how did that make you feel, Emma?
Starting design thinking at a really early age, they'll take more risks. They start learning goal setting, problem solving, perseverance.
First attempts don't always work out. It's okay to fail and try again, because then you actually are learning something like, oh, this doesn't work. Let's try this.
7:35.
I think it's good because it's not just thinking about yourself,
but thinking about other people. And I think that's very important.
So I hope you got an idea what is it all about, right? I hope you got an idea, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You can see the end of that presentation, that video, you can see that children are celebrating. That celebration mode is very important in learning, right? Because when they create something new, they get an opportunity once they present, and when they get the appreciation, they get time to celebrate, and that motivates them to further learn and create new things. That is very important in the classroom. That's what we lack in the present day classroom. That's why people are telling design thinking should be implemented, because a lot of reflective learning takes place. Then, as usual, in almost all my presentations, at the end, I used to show to the schools these 3 questions I used to put up. And these are the 3 questions the schools can discuss and debate. Because these questions, if you can find answers for these questions, in the same way, in the design thinking way, if you can find answers for these 3 questions, your school can create an entirely different environment. That's what I believe. And these 3 questions are, first, how do we want each student to learn? And for this question, the answer should not be prepared by the management or the principal. The answer should be found through a collaborative brainstorming session. How do we want each student to learn? Each and every teacher of the school should have a clear idea, a same answer for how do we want each student to learn. That means teachers may be giving you a lot of, what I can say, lot of answers and all when you brainstorm in the beginning. Finally, by analyzing all that, you can come to a conclusion. Okay, this is the way we want our children to learn. Then ultimately that becomes the vision of the school. Then you can arrange your learning process in the same pattern to a large extent. That will help you to turn around. Because many of the schools at present, they have no idea how the children to learn in their school. School itself doesn't know how the children should learn in their school. It's a big question. Then second point, how will we know when each student has learned it? This is the part of an assessment part. How we assess the kids, how we assess the learners, how we understand the learning gap. That is a big issue. Because our assessments are most of the time for grading the kids or for branding them. So this is the second question we have to ask and find answer as a group. How will we know when each student has learned? What technique we will use? And it is very important how much the child learned. It is very important to understand. Then only we will be identifying the learning gap and we will be finding solutions to that. That is the second question. Then the third question, how will we respond when a student experiences difficulty in learning? Now suppose you found a learning gap. How are you going to solve that? What is the method you use? And if you have an answer for these three questions, a proper answer, and if that proper answer is filtered down to each and every teacher in your school, to an extent, whatever the parents and society expect from a school that you can deliver, then naturally your school will become one of the best schools in that area. So I leave it to you to discuss and debate about these three questions and find solutions for wonderful answers and implement it. You can use for that also design thinking. With that, I wind up my session. I think 1 hour is over almost. Yes. Thank you. I stopped sharing my presentation. Yeah. I hope I could complete within the time, even though it was a super fast express, because it is a little difficult to take this topic within 50 minutes and all. I'm very sorry if you couldn't understand something. Yeah, it's over to you. Thank you for the patient listening. That's all I wanted to tell.
It was a great session. Thank you so much for this. The last 3 questions, I think, we all will be deliberating in the school once we are back in our campuses after the summer break. But I'm sure my teachers here must have connected it with the project-based learning that we are doing.
Yeah.
And the whole process that you have shared was absolutely, amazing, and something that can be implemented in the classroom, definitely. So thank you so much for this session.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Anupama.
If there are no more questions, we could close for the evening. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Radha. I think we resonate with what Anupama said. I think a lot of these approaches that we have been using all, would come under this umbrella called design thinking. Basically a problem solving, I think, process and approach would help us in solving these real life problems that we as teachers also face. So I think more than doing it in the classroom, I think for us, especially how to cover up the learning gap that we have, or certain behavioral issues that we face today post-COVID when the children are back. So if teachers use this model that you have given us, the steps that you've given us, I think we should be able to get these solutions. Thank you very much. An interesting session. Look forward to you joining us for a few more in the future, Radha. God bless all of you. Good evening and enjoy the weekend.
And thank you so much once again. Thank you so much. And Mugeshji, I will share with you the PDF. Okay, you can share with everyone.
Yeah,
because there are plenty of links in the presentation that you can go through. Teachers can further learn. Extended learning can happen. Those who are interested. That's all. Thank you so much. Bye bye. See you. I'm signing.
Bye bye. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.